Hello everyone. I'm North Hempstead Town Supervisor Judy Bosworth, and I, along with our town board, are proud to present At Home with North Hempstead, a series of special programs for children, seniors, as well as entertainment for residents of all ages. I hope you enjoyed this special presentation and check back often for new content. This week, we're gearing up for a very spooky celebration. Join us for these Halloween-themed videos, which will surely be a treat.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining me in this other video. So today I'm going to be showing how to create this beautiful pumpkin watercolor landscape, okay? I'm going to show you how to create the pumpkin and the background design and everything. For the supplies, you will want to have one flat brush and one pointy brush. You will want to be using a pencil, a black permanent marker. For the watercolor, you can use watercolor cakes or liquid watercolor or watercolor from the tube, and also some water. I am going to be using 140-pound paper, but if yours is not that heavy, that's okay. And then also some paper towels. And then, yeah, I think that's about it. So when I'm going to be doing the drawing, I'm going to be using a permanent marker, but you should be using a regular pencil. I'm using the marker so that way it's easier for you to see the lines that I'm making. All right. So we're going to be starting by drawing the pumpkin. So the general shape for the pumpkin is you want to start by creating an oval. But before we get to that, I'm probably going to create like a line for the grass first. For the grass, you're about 1 inch above and you're just making a straight line. I know it's a bit hard to see, but you're making a straight line. And then for the oval, you can think of like a letter C that you're drawing, a really nice big one. And then a backward letter C, you can think of a football, or just a regular old oval. And then after that, you're going to be making a curved line from the top, and you're going to stop all the way at the bottom. Okay, so this could be like a very curvy, wavy C. You're going to be making 2 of those shapes. So we've made 1 already. You're making 2 on each side. You want it to curve and wave a little bit to give a natural look of a pumpkin. All right, so right now we've got a nice wide pumpkin, I would say. If you have bigger paper, you can add more if you want the pumpkin to look bigger. For the stem, you're going to be using 2 curved lines, very small, and then you're going to be connecting them together. Next, we're going to be creating the grass. For the grass, you want to think of triangles, all right? You want to make a lot of triangles, different heights, but all triangles. I'm using pencil. You're also going to be using pencil. It is a little bit hard to see, but you're just making triangles. Triangles can go over the pumpkin too. You can place the clouds where you would like. The clouds resemble, it's a lot of U's that you're going to be connecting together, or a lot of wavy lines. You can add as many clouds as you want. For the sun, you can add like a big circle sun. I'm adding like a side sun. That's really up to you. So take some time to add the clouds where you would like them. I'm going to just stick with 3 clouds. And then that should be about it for the drawing, really. We're going to be going on to the watercolor now. So remember, with watercolor, you want to make sure that you dip the brush in water, swirl it around a little bit, and then kind of like slide it on the edge to get rid of the extra water. And so watercolor, it's always dry usually when you're not using it. I'm using watercolor cakes, so they're always dry. But once you add water to it, that's gonna activate the paint. All right, so you want to make sure that you always have water on your brush. That's why it's called watercolor. It requires water to work. So I'm gonna be starting with a dark orange, right? The darkest orange that you have. And then I'm gonna be painting that on the outer edge of the oval, right? Not the center, but closer to the outer edge of it. And for this, it's probably gonna be like 1/2 inch probably, but I want to give idea of like shadow. So just paint it as nice and also as like as smooth as you can. So you always want to be making sure that you're dipping the brush back in the water to make sure that the paint will go on smoothly. And we're just going to be painting the outer edge. Because what we're going to be doing is we're going to do like a lighter orange and then a yellow. So I think this is about a good amount of orange. Yeah. And then whenever you're changing colors, you're going to want to make sure you rinse the brush, but we're not changing colors yet. And then the next one is we're doing the same thing for the other shapes next to the oval, right? But we're only doing the outer edge. And I'm repeating that a lot. I just want to emphasize it. So that way someone doesn't paint the whole oval orange. And so your orange might be a little bit light right now, but we're going to be painting 2 layers. So it's going to be darker the second time that we paint it. So if it's looking kind of light right now, it's okay. We're going to paint it again to make it a really nice dark orange. So yeah, so you see how I'm just painting the edge and I'm leaving the middle, yeah, just the sides. That's what I should call it. Instead of the edge, you're just painting the sides. And then, yeah. Now, if you see that, if you do add too much water to the brush, you're going to see that the paint starts to drip. That's okay. You'll probably just want to grab paper towel and pat it down where there's too much water. And then also just take some water from the brush. And then, yeah, so what I'm trying to do with this one is I'm trying to move the paintbrush back and forth very smoothly so that way the paint continues to mix. And I'm also continuously dipping the brush back into the water so that way because when you don't have a lot of water on the brush, you're gonna get like little specks of paint rather this nice smooth color. All right, so I think we're almost about done. It's actually looking very cool so far. Yeah, very nice. And then after that, we're going to be using a lighter orange. So if you don't have different shades of orange, I would probably say to get an orange, like a small amount of orange and some yellow and mix that together to get yellow orange. So rinse your brush and then you're going to want to do, if you can make a lighter orange, but, or also just do yellow. Okay, so if you have a lighter shade of orange, do that. But if you don't, you can also do yellow. So we're going to be doing 3 different colors. So the yellow I'm using, it's not, there's like lemon yellow and just yellow. We're just using pure yellow. This yellow looks a little bit orangey sometimes. The other yellow looks, I don't know, but there's a difference when you look at them closely. So this is the darker yellow that we're using. And so if you look at it, it kind of starts to look a bit like real, you know? Like the form of the pumpkin is starting to come to life, which is pretty cool. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm painting it the same way that I painted with the orange, you know, making sure that I just move the brush back and forth because when you do that, it helps to smooth the colors out. And we want to have a nice smooth orange. Unless you like want it to be a bit rougher, then you wouldn't want to smooth everything out. But if you do want it to be smooth and nice, you just have to keep moving the brush when it has water on it back and forth over the paint. Okay, and so there should be like a very thinnish oval white in the middle. That's kind of going to be what's called the highlight, which is the lightest part of the painting. And we're going to be painting that with a lighter yellow next. So we've got about like 1 more oval to go. But I'm really happy with how it's coming along so far. It's looking pretty good. So after that, you're going to be using... Okay, so try to find the lightest yellow you have. If you only have yellow, you would want to mix some white with that yellow to get a lighter yellow. Now I have different shades of yellow, that's why I don't have to mix that much. And also if you're, well, most watercolors come with different shades also. So I'm using the lightest yellow that I have. That one should be known as lemon yellow. Make sure you rinse the brush before you move on to the other color. And same thing, just wet it a little bit to activate the paint. And then, yeah, we're going to be filling in the rest of the white spots now. So if you want it to be super light, you would use less paint, more water. So with watercolor, whenever you want something to be light, you use less paint, more water. Whenever you want it to be dark, you use more paint, less water, right? And then you can also layer, but since it's the first layer, I'm using a little bit less paint for this. And then, wow, it's looking good. Now, if you want to keep a little like white spot showing, like a little white line, that could be fine. It could be in the front or on the edge. It's really up to you. So this is what we have so far, right? Looking nice. Now, I know that mine is very bold because I already did it with Sharpie. So if you want to, you could go over it with Sharpie now, or you can also do that later, right? But now if you want it to look three-dimensional, you wouldn't go over it with Sharpie. So we're going to move on with green next. That's going to be for the stem. You want to use the darkest green you have, or if you want a lighter stem, use the lightest green. I have about like 4 different shades of green, but have fun with it and decide which one you use. There's really no right or wrong green, really. Next, we're going to be working on the sky. Okay, I'm going to make my sky a nice light blue. If you want, you can make yours darker. I'm going to be using the lightest blue that I have. So once again, to change color, just make sure you rinse your brush. So you can start by adding some water to the paper, just a little bit. That's going to create what's called a wash. So I'm going to show you what that looks like when you create a wash. That's when there's water on the paper and then you add the paint. Now, when you do that, you're going to be moving the paintbrush left and right. Oops, I messed that up a bit. It's okay. But when you make the wash, it's just going to be very light and kind of like blurry, right? So you could do a wash in some parts. You don't have to do the wash. And when you don't add water before you add the paint, it's just going to be a bit darker and not as blurry. But you can, experiment with adding water to some parts of the paper and then paint, and then not adding water first, just to see the difference and see how it looks like. So for the sky, I'm going to start out light, and then I'm going to add some darker blue to it later on. But what I'm mostly doing is really moving the brush. Well, I want you to move it left and right. I know sometimes I go up and down like this. But I'm pretty good at like maneuvering the brush. But if you're just starting out with watercolor, I would suggest that you just move it left and right and not in too many different directions. Because when you move it in too many different directions, it makes it hard to blend everything in. And when you want to blend with watercolor, you just add more water to blend the colors together, right? I think I'm going to be making the darker, like as the blue goes down towards the grass, I think it's going to be darker. So yeah, I'm going to do that. So you can make the blue if you want like all the same like value or not. I'm going to make it become a little darker as it goes closer to the grass. And then, yeah, I'll start working on the other side. But just remember to continue dipping the brush in the water and moving it left and right. If there's like a space that you can't get through by moving it left and right, you can move it in another direction, but make sure you go over it right after, left and right, just so it can blend in with everything else. I want the sky to be kind of like smooth, a little blurry, because I want the pumpkin to be like the main focus of everything. I don't want the sky to like be the center of attention. The pumpkin is gonna get all the attention in this piece. All right, so take the time just to add the blue all around the pumpkin. Be careful of the clouds. You want to try to keep those white, and also of the sun. If some of the blue goes over to the, what's it called, the pumpkin, it'll be okay. As soon as you see that, try to see if you can get some paper towels just to lift up as much paint as you can. But if not, we can go over it with, when it dries, you can go over it back with orange or whatever color it went over. So the sky is looking pretty good so far. And remember, when you want to blend two colors together, just add a little bit of water and move the brush back and forth. When you're blending, you're going to be pressing down on the brush a little bit harder. And so I'm just going over some parts of the blue with a little bit of water to do some final blending. But yeah, I think we're about done almost with the first layer of the sky. And then we're probably just going to do the grass next. And then come back and do second layer of everything. Also, like, if you want to add anything else to the sky, like a bird, a plane, I don't know, Batman, whatever you want, uh, definitely make it your own. You can add those. It could be cool to add little birds flying around, or also some trees. That could be nice. So this is what it looks like. The sky looks a little blurry. It's okay if it's not fully like blended in. We can always fix that later on. All right, so next thing we're gonna be moving on. Actually, let me do the sun. For the sun, I'm using just a pure yellow, and I'm coloring it in. I'm just gonna color around the sun rays probably. I know it's a little weird to figure out how to color the sun rays, but I'm just gonna keep it simple and color in between the lines. Maybe you have another technique that could work. Feel free to use that. And then now you could like add other things to your class, but I think I'm gonna just keep mine white. For the green, I'm gonna be starting out with a light green for the grass, and then I'm gonna be going with a darker green later. So find your lightest green. Make sure that your brush is, you cleaned it and everything. Get some green, and for this, now remember that we had put, what's it called, triangles? Still keep those triangles, but you're just gonna be making a nice, like, just a flat layer of green first. So just move it left and right, the brush. And so horizontal, you're making, left and right. You don't have to worry so much about the triangles we made. We're going to be looking at the triangles later when we go over with the darker green. We're going to be using that as like a guide. Okay, so I'm just trying to like give the impression that this pumpkin is sitting on some type of grass. I think it's starting to look like that. The form and everything is looking pretty good. And when you're painting the outer edge, if you want to not make a mess, make sure you have another paper underneath your watercolor paper, so it makes it easier to paint the edge. But it looks like everything's good so far. Yeah. And then I think we're going to be doing second layers next. All right, so while the green and the blue sky is drying, we're going to be doing second layers for the orange, for the pumpkin, I mean. So start by going back to your darkest orange. And remember the same thing that we did for this first layer, you're doing again, but this time, so to want it to be darker, I'm going to actually use less water, more paint. All right, and you're going to be doing the same hand gestures, left and right, trying to smooth no, not left and right. Well, this one is up and down actually. But you just want to be moving the brush back and forth, so that way everything will be smooth. Yeah, so if you can look now on the left and on the right, you can see how that orange on the left looks much darker than the orange on the right. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Yeah, very nice. I don't know why, I really, really like this pumpkin for some reason. I don't know, I guess it's because I like bright colors and it looks really bright. So it really captures like my eyes and my attention and stuff. And then I think we have like one more to do for the orange. And I know that if when you're painting, like when the watercolor is wet, it gives off this glossy look, but as it dries, it's going to become like dull, right? So if yours look really glossy and shiny, it's natural. As it dries, it's gonna be just dull. And then, okay, I think that's about it for the second layer orange. And then I'm doing second layers for the stem. Second layers just mean you're going over the same thing with like, the same colors, but you're going to be using less water and more paint because we want everything to be darker. Now when I'm doing the yellow, I'm doing the, a lot of yellow, less water, but also try to see if you can very gently blend that yellow, like see where the yellow meets the orange. Try to gently blend it in a little bit, not all the way, but just a tiny bit. Like blend the two colors together, just a little bit. And then if you want, you can do second layers for the highlight, which is the lemon yellow, the lightest part, or you don't have to because we technically want it to be really light. But it's based on how it's looking. You can kind of decide what you want to do. Okay, so now I'm going to be going over my Sharpie, the dark lines again. But for some of you, if you didn't do this part yet, this is when you could do it. Before I do that, just to make the grass pop out for you guys, yeah, I'm going to go over it. Now, if your paper is wet right now, please don't do this part yet. Make sure it's dry, okay? Or else the Sharpie is gonna mess up your marker. Okay, so I'm just going over the grass that I made before, so that way it's more like, ooh, in your face, so you can see it more. And then if you have a smaller brush, perfect. If not, it's fine. Use the side of the brush. We're gonna be using the darkest green that we have. And what I'm going to ask you to do is just paint one side of each triangle. It could be the left, the right, change it up. It doesn't really matter. So to start by, we're painting the back, and then we're going to be painting the actual triangles. Okay, so now what I'm actually doing is I'm painting around the triangles, and then I'm going to go back and paint the left or the right of each triangle. So kind of give like the idea that there's grass, like different, like, what's it called? Like overlapping grass. So yeah, we're painting the outside, like around the triangles. And then we're going to be painting the actual triangles. This is actually looking really good. Yeah, that's really nice. Okay. I'm like really admiring it. While that's drying though, remember when I said that we would be making the part like the sky, where the sky and the grass slowly meet, would make that darker. I'm gonna do that, so I'm just going over my blue again to make it darker a little bit. I'm not gonna go up too much because I don't want the whole paint to be dark, mostly just around the pumpkin. Okay, and use less water, more paint. And same idea, move the brush left and right, try to blend. But you see how now with the darker blue, it really makes the pumpkin stand out and like brings your attention to the pumpkin. And it should, because it's really like the center of the whole piece. It's all about this big pumpkin. Yeah, I don't think I need to make it too dark. If you want, you can also make some other parts like the top of the sky a little darker. That could be fine. But you can definitely customize this to make it how you would like, how you want it to look like. And I'm just moving around because I'm trying to let some parts of the paint dry. With watercolor, especially if you're layering, you have to wait for it to dry. But it dries like 30 seconds. Okay, no, probably like 1 minute. It'll dry. Next, please get your pointy brush and get your darkest green again. And then this is now when we're going to be painting the left or right side. You're kind of going to just be making a couple little, you're not painting the whole triangle, right? So we're trying to add some darker green. So I'm making like 1 or 2 lines on the left or the right. I'm moving my brush up and down very fast because I kind of want you to see the lines a little bit to give the idea of grass. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you do the left or the right or mix, because then we're going to be going with the lighter green. So use the dark green. Make sure you have a lot of paint, less water, because we want it to be really dark. And just go on the sides of the triangles. Okay? And then after that, I'm probably going to be using, I'm probably just going to use yellow because I realized that there's already some light green on there from that first layer we made. So I'll probably use yellow as a kind of highlight like we did on the pumpkin. Just like small amounts of yellow, but that's after we're done with the green. And yeah, if you look closer, it's really just like a lot of little lines that I'm making and slowly blending them just very gently. I'm not blending them too much, just a little bit. And then yeah, but we might also have to let that dry. But if you have a smaller flat brush, you can use that. But if you do not, you can just use your regular large brush. But I'm gonna go back into the sky because there are some parts where like it's not fully blended. So what I'm doing is I'm getting some water and I'm adding it over those spots, and then I'm pressing down, not too hard, but I'm adding some pressure, and then I'm moving the brush around pretty fast because I'm trying to blend those colors together and to get this like nice blurry smooth sky. All right, because even when watercolor is dry, once you add water to it, it'll still, you can still play with it. Okay, so for the grass, for the highlight, you want to use your yellow. You can use regular yellow, lemon yellow. It's fine either way. And now the parts that I didn't add the dark green, I'm going to be going over that with the yellow. Yeah, just like a little bit of highlights. There's actually, it seems like there's light within the painting, which is pretty nice. Like it looks like, I don't know, like it is sunny and there's like sun rays hitting the grass and the pumpkin. This looks like a magical pumpkin. I don't know. Oh boy. Okay. So my pumpkin has dry. I'm gonna do a final, like going over it with the black Sharpie just so it pops out. Is this my second time? Yeah, this is my second time. So just make sure your pumpkin is dry before you go over it with the Sharpie. You also can go over the grass later when it dries, but you just really want to make sure that everything is dry before you touch it with the Sharpie, because if not, it can mess up the marker that you're using, and also it won't look as bold. And we really want to get like a bold look. All right, and be careful when you're tracing. Take your time, move slowly. If you do make a little mistake, it's all right. Yeah, it'll be fine. Like I made that little mistake on the right with the blue, but all's well. All still looks good. And then my grass is dry, so I'm gonna go over it with the green. But do you see how it's like really nice and pop and bold and just like really like in your face once you have the dark marker over it? And all I'm doing is I'm going over the lines I already made. I'm not really making any new lines, just going over the ones I already made before. You can do the same with the sun if you want, but I don't know if I will because I kind of want the sun to not be like to not be in focus. You can go over the clouds also. So those are some things to think about. Whatever you want to pop out is where you would go over. You can add some more sun rays too, but I think that's fine. And then, oh, voila. I think we are about done. That looks pretty good. Wow.